What an operation. The largest amphibious invasion in the history of the planet. Thousands of boats, thousands of planes, hundreds of thousands of men. In the fortification, the Atlantic Wall, months and months of barricading themselves into Europe, erecting concrete and barbed wire and guns to defend these beaches. And just a monumental invasion. Nothing has ever happened before like this, and nothing has happened since.
The D-Day operation was learned more through textbooks, and more recently, Hollywood has been able to recreate the Allied invasion on Normandy through films. But the ability to transport people back to June 6, 1944 has eluded historians until now.
It's a new history book that's more interactive. You know, you're taking a slice of history and then you're putting it into the game, and it's really interesting just because it's very interactive. It's very true to what actually happened.
You play the role of a paratrooper, and on the initial jump into D-Day, and you need to take the town of Carentan and repel the Germans and fight them all off as best you can.
We can recreate the battlefield exactly as the battlefield was, but the player is the one reliving the battle.
We would be able to be true to the experience, let people be in the boots of these soldiers, and to really be, they don't have a time machine, so we want to be able to let them go back in time and experience what it's like to be a soldier in 1944. And to be in France at that time. What was that like? That's really the question that we were trying to answer while making this game.
The battles that happen in the game are extremely close to the battles that happened in those locations that we dug information about and recreated.
When we set out to tell the story of a squad of soldiers from the squad level, we didn't start with D-Day. All we started with was wanting to be a soldier at the squad level, to really understand that brotherhood between soldiers. So we studied war. Which squad should we talk about? Where do we begin?
It is a story about the paratroopers of the 101st Airborne Division who jumped behind enemy lines on D-Day. Now our unit that we are featuring in this video game is the 502nd Parachute Infantry Regiment of the 101st Airborne Division. And we're actually focusing on one squad. And this is a story based on history. It is a story based on true life. Although Sergeant Matt Baker himself is a fictional character, is based on the true history of actual characters who fought in World War II and were actually from the 502nd Parachute Infantry Regiment.
These guys, these paratroopers, jumped behind enemy lines before the invasion to settle it. And their objective was to make the invasion possible and to make the invasion succeed. They had to knock out the beach defenses so that the guys could actually get onto the beach. They had to hold the flanks so that the German plan of driving that invasion force back into the sea when it happened would fail. The paratroopers, guys that had nothing but what they jumped out of the planes with, had to hold off Panzer tanks. It's amazing.
To create Brothers in Arms, Gearbox Studios spent a full year researching the D-Day invasion, perusing thousands of photographs, documents, and maps from the National Archives. The team then went to Normandy to walk the battlefields that they would later virtually recreate.
A group of us took a trip to Normandy to take photo reference pictures. We had maps from the archives in Washington, so we knew what we were looking for, and we basically went through the same routes that the soldiers took and just photographed everything. Most of these maps that we are making are actual real farms, real neighborhoods, real cities that we walked through in Normandy and the battle happened inside of. It's really realistic.
Along with the extensive research in history came the task of blending fiction with history through a script that tells the story of the men of the 101st Airborne.
So Brothers in Arms is about that brotherhood between soldiers, and it's about these guys and why they do what they do and how they manage it. In World War II, amazing things happen, real things that are more amazing than any of the fictional things that we've covered in any of these action games we've made. And to tell these stories and to actually take the care and effort to try to reach a new level of authenticity as we tell these stories has been very, very exciting for us, and it's something that I've been embroiled in for a long time, and it's exciting to see it come together with Brothers in Arms.
The church steeple at Carentan is a good reference point. It helped us locate this position here. This is the position where the 502nd Parachute Infantry Regiment met the 17th Waffen SS. Pretty tough fight happened here, and it's a fight we recreated in the game Brothers in Arms. It's kind of exciting to be standing here, to find this spot where it all took place. It's just as exciting to be able to recreate history in the game.
Well, the story in Brothers in Arms is actually just about Matt Baker and his squad, and it's about survival in a really tough war situation. It was really interesting when we started making the story to try and balance what it was like for not only Matt, but all these people that he's with within a video game, because it's not a movie or a TV show where you have infinite amount of time to show all like the little things. Like you don't show guys hanging around drinking coffee, you don't show guys hanging around smoking. So finding those moments and still telling a really good story was actually really tough. Like the main goal was essentially to make characters in a war game which people would know by name and remember and talk about, because not naming any names, but if you look at some other war games, chances are if you remember the name, it's because he was named John something.
Let's do it right. Let's actually live this fantasy. That means let's go to the real places and let's mingle with the real men, and let's go into it understanding what actually took place so that we can recreate it. And I think in hindsight, I'm not sure I would have made that decision if I knew how much it was going to cost and how much time it was going to take to do it right. But now that we're here, I'm glad we did.
In terms of writing, I researched slang of the era. I researched a lot of the pop culture of the era. There's a little interchange between Alan Granett and Leggett in the game where they talk about Batman and Superman, and I wasn't really sure if that was going to fly, but I actually found some video of some guys talking about some of the comic books they were reading in World War II, and sure enough, Batman, Superman, Aquaman, all kinds of stuff like that. So it was really interesting to have like a pop culture reference in 1944.
The town of Sainte-Marie-du-Mont was liberated by U.S. paratroopers of the 101st Airborne in June 6, 1944. By June 7th, all of the German defenders had been eradicated. This town is famous. In fact, today, behind me, an American flag and a French flag stand together. There's a lot of history here, and in the creation of Brothers in Arms, we wanted to recreate that history, to put you in the boots of a paratrooper and bring you back in time to 1944. So our art team came to Normandy, France, came here and captured all of these buildings on film, took photos of them so that we could recreate them. And we compared those photos to pictures that we gathered from the U.S. National Archives, photographs taken by aerial reconnaissance planes. And by comparing the photos from today and the photos from then, we were able to recreate history so that we could put you back in time when you play Brothers in Arms.
To ensure Brothers in Arms is the most accurate World War II game ever created, Gearbox enlisted Colonel John Antal, a 30-year Army veteran and airborne ranger who served in combat units in Germany, Korea, and Kuwait, and commanded an M1A1 tank battalion on the volatile demilitarized zone in Korea. Colonel Antal serves as Chief of Staff, historian, military consultant, and lead writer for Gearbox.
When I retired from the Army, Gearbox Software contacted me about working with them and creating a new kind of video game that really focused on authenticity. They wanted to make a World War II game, and they really wanted to know where to start, and they wanted to know about how to do tactics and combat and what it was like to be a soldier.
Colonel John Antal actually took us through a master's course of war history, starting with the Mesopotamians all the way up to modern day.
Starting them off with ancient warfare all the way through the ancient Greeks and the Romans all the way up to modern times, and then zeroing in on World War II and talking about the tactics of World War II and how an infantry unit operated, talking about the airborne and the history of the airborne operations.
The research for this particular project has been just outstanding compared to some of our previous projects. John Antal has been very instrumental in giving us access to, national museums and armories and stuff that we normally wouldn't get to go to on some of our other projects.
When I got to Gearbox, I found out that this the whole video game medium, which I'd played video games before, but the whole video game medium had been grown, and it was increasing in capability to a way that the technology now allows us to tell some really compelling stories in some unique ways.
The Colonel also made sure the development team understood what it was like to be a soldier.
Took them out on a field training exercise where we ran around in the field for 24 hours and experienced what it was like to be a soldier. Everything from digging foxholes to eating rations to fighting mock battles using paintball.
FTX stands for Field Training Exercise, and it was a chance for us to get out in the field and actually experience what soldiers experience.
Gearbox Software sent all the developers out, including myself, to Killeen, Fort Hood area. They sent us out to just understand how it is to be a soldier.
All met up one morning, early one morning, and boarded a bus and drove out to Fort Hood, Texas.
We trained for a day in squad maneuvers, in how to get down on the ground, get under cover, how to use cover, how to recognize cover, how to march, how to sing soldier songs, and so forth.
Let me tell you, it was very difficult. It is really hard to communicate, especially for a non-soldier, to communicate with all of the other men and to really get your points across to them, to say, to get them information, to stay information. It's a lot of work. I mean, it's amazing.
We had to get into character, so to speak. He put us into lines and made us get our gear in line in a certain order. Everybody was a little nervous because, we had this Army colonel barking orders at us. And now looking back on it, I could tell he was enjoying himself for doing this.
And then the next day we woke up early, a lot earlier than we wanted to, and played some paintball. And we used the squad tactics that we had learned the previous day. And man, it was the best game of paintball I've ever played.
So they learned a lot by doing that. I think they learned most importantly that it's a tough job.
Gearbox went to great lengths to make sure every detail in the game, from soldiers' uniforms to weapons, was accurate.
We recreated all the weapons to minute detail so that the German-American weapons look exactly as they did and operate exactly as they did. It was amazing how, if you're going to make a weapon, for instance, and you've never fired a weapon, how you can probably make a pretty good look-alike, but you don't really understand it the same way. So we've had an opportunity to take the entire Gearbox team out, and they actually fired World War II weapons. They had a familiarization with all of those weapons. They know the kick that a rifle gets. They know the sound. They know the weight in their arms and when they carry it.
We paid a visit to the Aberdeen Ordnance Museum, National Ordnance Museum up in Aberdeen, and they gave us, Dr. Atwater up there gave us full access to their armory, and we got to photograph and use and just examine every weapon they had that was from the World War II era and beyond.
And we're able to shoot them, just individual members of the team, to see how they felt, to see how the smoke came off of them, to see how loud they were, which was a lot louder than we thought they would be, and just to feel how inaccurate they were, deal with jams, all the different things that we didn't realize about guns and how difficult they are to use and how dangerous they are.
The magazine is inserted here at the bottom, and this is the magazine release button. So when you put the magazine in, you want to make sure that it's seated properly, and to take it out, you push the button, and then you pull it out. Tell me about this safety here. Right here is a little button. You know how this works?
It locks the bolt back?
That's right.
All right.
Okay, so it'll lock the bolt back, and now the weapon will not fire. You can push the trigger, it will not fire. Fire it will.
One guy ended up cocking himself in the nose with the bolt when it flew back, and we really learned that a gun is a dangerous thing regardless of which way it's pointed.
To make the gameplay experience as close to actual combat as possible, Gearbox created advanced artificial intelligence for both the Allied and German soldiers.
Well, I think the Brothers in Arms AI is really unique in how adaptive it is to the situation. I think that players will find that the characters in the game believe more like real humans would in the situation in previous games on the shelf. And I think it's unique in sort of pushing the bar upwards in that sense. The enemy AI in the game is designed to be as reactive as possible, so we really want the enemy AI to behave in a way that will support the gameplay. So we'll support what the player does, and as an example, we have the whole concept of suppression in the game. And so the enemy AI will react by behaving suppressed. If you put a lot of fire on an enemy unit, that enemy unit will get down behind cover and not shoot back as much at you. Also, they'll respond by flanking you if you, say, go into a certain area. And that's the more reactive that the enemy AI is, the more that the player will get out of it. The fun factor will be that much higher.
And we can do this authentically, right? We can get real soldiers to teach us the battle drills and the tactics training that they had, and create a program that simulates it. So in certain situations, when incoming fire happens and the drill is, hit the deck or find cover, this takes place in the game, and the characters respond naturally. They're not waiting for me to tell them exactly what to do, and they're not pre-scripted to do it the same way every time. It's a dynamic, flowing system.
If the level designers and me as an AI programmer do our job, then nobody playing this game will even think about AI. That's the goal of all this. And so it's really just working with a level designer to make sure that the combat scenario works, that it flows correctly, that it feels good, that it rewards the player for doing the right thing, which is suppressing and flanking, and punishes him for doing the wrong thing, which would be, say, Ramboing, or running up the center and guns a-blazing and all that. This is a typical test map that we use to test AI and combat gameplay. And what you see here is one aspect of AI that we worked quite a bit on, and that's the use of cover. This soldier right here is using this spot as standing cover, and as you can see, he's hunkered behind this wall and he leans out to fire. These soldiers over here, by contrast, are using crouched cover, and so they find spots behind this wall from which they can fire over. This is a really fun aspect of AI to work on. This soldier right here adjusted to a new cover spot because he wasn't getting enough vantage over there. So this map kind of demonstrates that in action. We use a lot of maps like these to test AI and gameplay, and so we spend a lot of time running this sort of map.
One thing about Brothers in Arms that sets us apart from some of our previous titles that we've done is in this particular game we've implemented a inverse kinematics, or a physics system that allows characters to function as if there were like gravity in the world. So, for example, imagine a puppeteer, and the puppet is held up by strings. And if the puppeteer were to let go of those strings, the puppet would fall and collide with the ground, accordingly. Well, we have this function, while it's not done with strings, but in our game, it's done with math, where characters can be, thrown into a certain direction, and their bodies are set up in a way so that they'll collide with things. Like they'll collide with a wall, or they'll collide with a fence, and they'll be hanging over the fence. So this is a great effect for things like grenades. So if a grenade blows up next to a guy and it sends him flying through the world, he'll catch onto a tree or catch onto a fence and kind of hang over it and dangle down. And it's just visually it's stunning to see guys go flying through the air, and it's really exciting.
The multiplayer team spent a lot of time researching the environments and the events that happened in this period of the war. We actually had some designers go over to Normandy and scout locations, trying to find areas that were visually unique, but also lended themselves very well to gameplay. We also spent a lot of time with Colonel John Antal discussing the various types of missions that soldiers would have gone on during this period of time, not only from the Allied force, but also from the German point of view, which is something that isn't covered in the single-player portion of the game.
With FTX training and real rifle shooting as newfound skills and advanced AI covered, the team then set about to create Brothers in Arms, one of the most realistic and accurate World War II shooters ever made. The team went to great detail in getting human performances into the game's 3D characters.
Or have you come running in, actually have you come running in, take a stance, give a move out order, and then take a knee, That might actually work out pretty well. Something like that, or a rally, do a rally. But you're going to have to come running in from over here. So.
Motion capture is a way for us to generate animation very quickly. We start with a guy in a suit, and we actually have reflective balls on him, and we set him up in such a way that he is seen optically, and we can actually act out a scene. We can act out anything we want and capture that. It allows us to generate tons of animations very fast. These reflective balls that you see on this actor here are the joints. These simulate the bones that we use to actually animate the character with later on. These actually generate the data as he moves around that we use later on in the game. What we're seeing here is Lieutenant Colonel Robert Cole delivering a line to the player early on in the game. This line is being motion captured by Josh Rick, one of our motion capture actors here at Gearbox. This is the actual data we just captured before cleanup, before it's been put in the game. This is the last step before it actually makes it into the game. We do a lot of cleanup here. This is where we do the final tweakage. We do hands, feet, facial emotion, things like that. This is the final step before we actually get the animation ready for the game.
Brothers in Arms makes full use of Dolby 5.1 surround sound to immerse players in a world that looks and sounds like the battlefields of 1944.
Weapon sounds were recorded live at a firing range. Other sound effects like trees rustling. Somebody went downstairs, actually broke a limb off a tree, brought it up and shucked the thing in Dave's office and had leaves go all over the place. For rain, we had a metal helmet, put a microphone in the helmet, drip water on the helmet, you get the rain effect.
Since we have an interactive experience, we have to have a larger amount of music that we can call up at certain times depending on what happens in the game. For the most part, this game is, the music's used in a scripted sense where it happens at certain moments during the game. Our composer's name is Stephen Harwood, and he's a graduate of University of Miami. He's done pieces for orchestra here and there. This is his first big title. I had a difficult time finding a composer. I spent weeks listening to demo discs, and it came down to finding the guy that had, the style that we wanted for this. And he had to be able to sort of imitate styles of 40s music, but we also wanted, the real anthemic John Williams sort of things too. We spent 4 days in the Czech Republic, recording approximately 45 minutes worth of music with an 81-piece orchestra, including a harpist, a pianist, and recorded all of it in surround sound.
Okay, audio engineer is responsible for the code, creating the tools, interfacing with the hardware. I'm also responsible for educating the level designers how to use the tools and whatnot, and working with Dave on mixing stuff, which is what we're seeing behind us. On the right monitor, we have the game playing, and on the left monitor, we have our tool called XAct, which monitors the sound processor on the Xbox and gives us real-time feedback of all the sounds playing. At any time, we can change the properties of the sound and change its volume and see it done in real time.
Gearbox employees made several trips to Normandy, France to ensure the game's accuracy, including a trip to commemorate the 60th anniversary of the D-Day invasion in June 2004.
What you just saw me doing, reading and driving, no one should do at home.
Yeah, don't try that at home. Right. We're going to come up on the area where the awards ceremony was. They had this award ceremony out here on the 20th, and as it was wrapping up, mortar started falling in the middle of the town square, and this is it.
No, church is this way.
I know, but this is the square where the sword.
Yes, this is exactly where. And right over here is the where they lined everybody up.
And the mortar started falling because the Germans pre-sighted some artillery onto the spot. And of course everyone hit the deck, got out of there. Even after the Battle of Carentan, the war continued.
Here's the monument where the soldiers took the pictures. You may recall this.
If we can park here, we could just walk over to the church.
Right.
There it is.
The cathedral at Carentan was used as an observation point for both the German occupiers and the Allied invaders. This was a key town. This is the junction point between the invasion beaches at Utah and Omaha. The paratroopers had to liberate this town in order to unify those invasion forces. In the game Brothers in Arms, you participate in that battle. In fact, you can climb this tower, get to the top of the cathedral, and use your observation point to command your men below react to the German counterattack. You can also act as a sniper in support of your men using a 1903 Springfield rifle. It's a pretty exciting moment. It's the centerpiece of the game, leading to the ultimate climax, the final battle at Hill 30.
And the end result has wowed the brave men who fought in D-Day.
I particularly like Brothers in Arms because not only because of the soldiers' uniform and their weapons, but also because of the situations that they had to face are very, very realistic. And the environment in which this takes place is really a trip back into time. I am impressed.
I look out here at all these graves and I think about all the people that didn't come back from the war and the people who didn't have children. My grandfather was able to come back to a normal life, and I now can learn something about his past and I can remember for him. But a lot of these men here don't have that legacy, so it's up to us to come here and remember, and it's up to us to help them tell their stories.